Confessions of Saint Augustine, Book 1, Chapter 12. In boyhood itself, however, so much less dreaded for me than youth, I loved not study and hated to be forced to it. Yet I was forced, and this was well done towards me, but I did not well, for, unless forced, I had not learned. But no one does well against his will, even though what he does be well. Yet neither did they well who forced me, but what was well came to me from you, my God. For they were regardless how I should employ what they forced me to learn, except to satiate the insatiate desires of a wealthy beggary and a shameful glory. But you, by whom the very hairs of our head are numbered, did use for my good the error of all who urged me to learn, and my own who would not learn. You did use for my punishment, a fit penalty for one so small a boy and so great a sinner. So by those who did not well, you did well for me, and by my own sin you did justly punish me. For you have commanded, and so it is, that every inordinate affection should be its own punishment. Chapter 13. But why did I so much hate the Greek which I studied as a boy? I do not yet fully know. For the Latin I loved, not what my first masters, but what the so-called grammarians taught me. For those first lessons, reading, writing, and arithmetic, I thought as great a burden and penalty as any Greek. And yet whence was these too, but from the sin and vanity of this life, because I was flesh and a breath that passes away and comes not again. For those first lessons were better certainly, because more certain. By them I obtained and still retain the power of reading what I find written, and myself writing what I will. Whereas in the others I was forced to learn the wanderings of one Aeneas, forgetful of my own, and to weep for dead Dildo, because she killed herself for love, the while with dry eyes I endured my miserable self dying among these things, far from you, O God, my life. For what more miserable than a miserable being who commiserates not himself, weeping the death of Dido for love to Aeneas, but weeping not his own death for want of love to you, O God? You light of my heart, you bread of my inmost soul, you power who gives vigor to my mind, who quickens my thoughts, I loved you not. I committed fornication against you, and all around me thus fornicating there echoed, well done, well done. For the friendship of this world is fornication against you. And well done, equals on till one is ashamed not to be thus a man. And for all this I wept not. I who wept for Dido slain, and seeking by the sword a stroke and wound extreme, myself sing the while worse extreme, the extremest and lowest of your creatures, having forsaken you, earth passing into the earth. And I forbade to read all this, I was grieved that I might not read what grieved me. Madness like this is thought a higher and a richer learning than that by which I learnt to read and write. But now, my God, cry you aloud in my soul, and let your truth tell me, not so, not so, far better was the first study. For lo, I would readily forget the wanderings of Aeneas and all the rest rather than how to read and write. But over the entrance of the grammar scroll is a veil drawn. True, yet is this not so much an emblem of art recondite as a cloak of error? Let not those whom I no longer fear cry out against me, while I confess to you, my God, whatever my soul will, and acquiesce in the condemnation of my evil ways, that I may love your good ways. Let not either buyers or sellers of grammar, learning, cry out against me. For if I question them whether it be true that Aeneas came on a time to Carthage, as the poet tells, the less learned will reply that they know not, the more learned that he never did. But should I ask with what letters the name Aeneas is written, every one who has learned this will answer me aright as to the signs which men have conventionally settled. If again I should ask which might be forgotten with least detriment to the concerns of life, reading and writing, or these poetic fictions, who does not foresee what all must answer, who have not wholly forgotten themselves? I sinned then, when as a boy I preferred those empty to those more profitable studies, or rather loved the one and hated the other. 1 and 1, 2, 2 and 2, 4. This was to me a hateful sing-song. The wooden horse lined with armed men, and the burning of Troy, and Cusa's shade and sad similitude were the choice spectacle of my vanity.